Always remember, the opinion you follow should be your own. Just consider the things stated here to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online.
So, Mike, I did a stupid thing. Jason just contacted me. I typed up the link for him, but I didn't hit send.
Well, that could be why he's not here right now.
So he'll be on in a minute or two.
I mean, I don't really understand why he just doesn't telepathically understand how to get on this podcast from just about anywhere. So it's, anyways.
Wait, he says, I don't have a link, just an email from you saying you sent the link.
Oh boy.
So if anybody's waiting for him, he'll be on shortly.
Yeah, we're working on it. Technical difficulties here in Cyberville. Hey, think about it this way. It's kind of amazing you can have a podcast with people that are thousands of miles apart. Right. And we're recording this both audio and video for the 12 people that watch us on YouTube. I know the vast majority of people listen to us out in radio world mostly on Apple and Spotify, but there's a few of you that watch us. I think you just want to see what we're looking like today.
Yeah, I talk to people who watch us on YouTube and they feel sorry for us.
Right.
And I'm like, no, we're a pretty big thing, just not on YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah. But if you really want to see like what outfit we're wearing, or Phil, I mean, if you're watching this right now, he's got our random waypoints shirt on there. I see. Look at us right there. Look at that. That looks nice. But yeah, but I realize most of you are listening, which is probably better. We look like we should be on the radio.
And if we've done live podcasts at some of the events and they're packed.
Yep.
So
I'm trying to remember. Did we have Jason? Speaking of live podcasts, did we have Jason on a live podcast? I think we did, didn't we?
No, we've never had him on the podcast. I've wanted him on the podcast. Something has always happened. He's had to do a class. You had to do a class. I had to do an interview. It's always been something.
Are you sure we've never had him? I'm going to ask him.
I'm confident he hasn't been on the show.
We didn't at Mountain West?
No.
Okay. There he is. I see him now. There he is.
Can you guys hear me okay?
With the buttery smooth bokeh.
I hear you great.
Good.
I was talking about modern technology. You got to send you a link. I mean, but we're all like thousands and thousands of miles apart here. So, but it works.
Yeah, you're actually floating over a canyon right now, Mike.
I am flying. Yes, exactly. It's a nice canyon.
So for those who don't know who this is Jason Specht, a good friend of ours. We see him all over North America. Jason is the owner of Mountain State Overland LLC, and Mountain State Overland started filming in 2013. They've produced over 350 YouTube videos in the last 12 years, led over 40 guided tours of West Virginia, and are hosting Adventure X Fest for the 6th year. They preach responsible adventures and are advocates of building community in the overland space. Jason, welcome to the show.
Thank you for the fantastic introduction there.
Phil's good at that. So I didn't do that. I got a question though, Jason. Is it possible you've never been on the podcast with us before? I swear you went on it.
I keep asking all the time, and it just Yeah,
Phil tells me you're coming on every week, but then he doesn't send the link. So
yeah, I put it on my calendar and just kind of was like, I messaged him there on Instagram. I was like, hey, we going, or you want to do it later? I'm so used to doing podcasts, with a beer in my hand or a glass of scotch at like 9:00 at night. But midday, it's still light outside. It's very, very light out right now.
Hey, I mean, for us, we're both on West Coast time right now, so it's only 1:00.
Jason, we will not judge you if you want to drink something.
No, I'm going to wait a little bit. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great. We both want to know something, so let's get that one right out of
Okay.
the way. Will we see you at Overland Expo West?
Mountain West. I won't be at Expo West.
Mountain West.
We've got a trip here, kind of a first trip we've ever done like this here in West Virginia. It's a combination of side by side adventures, UTV adventures, and overlanding here in West Virginia. We're doing that for the first time here mid month here in May. So I won't be there in Flagstaff. I will be in Colorado, and then we'll be at Overland Expo East for sure.
So tell me more about the what other trips you guys planning. Like, what's your kind of schedule looking like for the? We've been talking a lot the last couple of weeks about every time spring comes around. It's like, okay, what's everybody doing this season?
Yeah. No, it's been, myself and Eric, we've had some, fun team members in the past too. Gabby, if you guys have watched our videos, Gabby was a big part of our team for a while. Mm-hmm. And we introduced this guy to trips then. So it was typically just been myself and another team member. Ben's come down to help a couple times from Mass. But we have a whole new group of guys that, work with us and, guide with us. So it's kind of created some new opportunities for us to, kind of diversify a little bit and kind of put some fun things together that we typically haven't ever had the options to do in the past. So this year we've already done, we just did our third trip already this year. So, wow. Typically in the past we've done 6 trips, as few as 4, but as many as 6. And this year we'll do 9. So, having a bigger team to be able to help with that and not necessarily commit myself or Eric or Ben, we can train these guys and get them out there, to do it. So first kind of unique trip we had this year, we did a ladies only trip. We called it women's only weekender, women's overlanding weekender. So we called it the WOW trip, and we had 9 ladies and 4 trucks. One of them, which ended up being Rhea from Roaming Reckless. She came down to West Virginia and crossed West Virginia off of her 50 states trips, and then it went into Virginia also as well. I don't want to spoil it too much for all of our fans that may be listening to this and watching, but we had her down in West Virginia and Virginia to kind of check that off of her list. And then the other 2 trips we did were standard weekender formats, and then we're doing a trip in May where we're incorporating side-by-side rentals into the overland experience midstream. So we'll basically, overland for a day to our destination. We'll camp, wake up in the morning, hop in some side-by-sides, travel the Hatfield-McCoy trails here in West Virginia. West Virginia has become known for its adventure tourism, and we can talk about that here lately. There's been a lot of really positive things happening in this adventure tourism space here in the state. So we're going to give them that type of experience, then hop back in the trucks, the next day after camp, and then kind of go and explore around and do some more overlanding in our final night at camp there. So we basically add an extra day in on those. The second, we're calling those the Pro Series trips, is what we've kind of branded those as. And then we have another Pro Series trip where we're going to be doing the same thing, but we're going to be landing with a rafting outfit on the New River Gorge, and we'll be actually raft fishing in 6 whitewater rafts with frames, and each raft has its own dedicated fishing guide. So we'll be overlanding for a day, and then it'll just be catching smallmouth bass all day long. Fishing on the New River is just incredible. On a good day, comfortably fishing, you look to maybe 15 or 20 smallies, in your boat. So, per person fishing, it's a pretty fantastic experience. So, we feel like these Pro Series trips are going to be a lot of fun. to kind of try to incorporate what I've wanted to do for a long time. These human powered pursuits, aside from just sitting in a truck and driving, right? We've tried climbing in the past. It didn't really take off, but now that we have a team where we can really get in and kind of focus on offering these options, we'll fine tune them and figure out what people want to do. Then we're doing a GP Factor sponsored Ineos. We're calling it the Ineos Rally, the GP Factor Ineos Rally, and the people that are going on that trip is required to drive either a quartermaster or a grenadier. I don't think anybody has a quartermaster here yet, but so we'll be taking those people out for a weekend trip. So we start on a Thursday, end on a Sunday, so it's a couple days there, but. Yeah, so that's what it's looking like. Aside from our regular guided trips that we do, and then our big hammer down trip we do on the Trans-American Trail every year. That's not guided. That's just a private team trip. So,
let me ask you. Let me ask this question: Where are you finding most of your participants from?
So, I mean, taking it back a few years. When we started filming on YouTube, there wasn't a lot of overlanders, filming their adventures. We were obviously influenced by Expedition Overland. And at that point in time, there wasn't a lot. And then Instagram started happening, and then people started figuring out YouTube, and then people got cameras. But what really worked for us is that we had put all that content out there, and through the comments we were finding that people wanted to go with us. So we said, we can't do that. we can't take. It's enough to just get these 4 guys and like 2 or 3 trucks to go out, much less catering to people. We wanted it to be a good experience, and we didn't think that we could do that. So we gave it a shot. And it kind of took off. So to answer your question, the people are finding us through, social media, primarily YouTube. We did a lot of ads, full page ads and stuff through Outdoor by 4. Frank Ledwell there. Outdoor by 4 brought some traffic in. A lot of it right now is word of mouth and YouTube. So we get a lot of repeat guests. We have 2 guests that have gone on 5 trips. They're basically battling it out right now to hold the trophy for most trips traveled with MSO, which is fantastic. And at first they were really selling out super quick. So, these people were coming back and being like, well, we know they sell quick, but we don't want to take the opportunity away for somebody else. And I was like, take it, get it while you can. Let's get these things, so we can start planning, so we can start booking campsites, because the sooner we can fill them up, the sooner we can start, spending money on, all of the facility rentals and things like that we need to do, and planning out for our team. But to answer your question, it's social. We have a reasonable size, email group that we push stuff out to, but that word of mouth, going to Overland Expo, talking to people about what we do. OK 4-wheel drive is a big supporter of Mountain State Overland. In fact, I work full time for OK 4-wheel drive now. They're always pushing people to us, and then they're shopping with OK 4-wheel drive. At the end of the day, they're buying, Alucab campers. They're seeing that product, in a digital world like we live right now. Mike, I think we've talked about this before. Yeah. In the digital world that we live in, people are looking for real opportunities to physically touch and be a part of these, adventures, and see the equipment in use, and maybe rethink or maybe qualify the equipment that they already have. So
I think you guys are an excellent opportunity. When someone asks me, and I get this question asked a lot, I'm scared to go out on my own. I've got the expensive vehicle, I've got all the gear, but I've never been out before. And I think your guide tour is an excellent way to go with others, people who know what the hell they're doing. And I think people don't understand, West Virginia is one of the most beautiful states in the United States. And you mentioned fishing. I lived in West Virginia I'm sorry, in Virginia, and we used to go to West Virginia all the time for fishing. It's still a secret. West Virginia has excellent fishing. Plus, they feed the
It
system.
really does.
Mhm.
They do. Yeah. I mean, I'm a very proud, resident of the state now. I think but basically it's been almost 4 years now. We moved here, prior to that, we were living in Virginia, but I grew up on the border in Covington, and we would always be finding ourselves either in the George Washington National Forest or in the Mon Forest in West Virginia. Then went to school over there, but I always just found the state. Every time we would go somewhere in college or in high school and we'd see something, we'd just be kind of blown away, by, how close things were to us, and even with all of the marketing that the state is doing to, make West Virginia an adventure destination, it still takes a lot of time. I mean, I can think back when I was big into, snowboarding and stuff in high school and always looking at people skiing out west. Of course, you still get that now. And now it's become so popular that it's almost impossible to afford a lift ticket, in Colorado, or find a space to make fresh tracks on your own. So I think West Virginia is going about doing it the right way. In my lifetime, I don't ever see West Virginia being really a destination like Colorado by any means, just because we don't have the infrastructure here. There's so many places you go where you just don't have any cell phone service for like 3 days on some of these trips that we do. So I think that's probably keeping people from moving to the state. And I think the state is working on those opportunities. They're building a new highway, Corridor H, that they've been working on for several years. That's designed to bring, people from, Nova or from the DC area to the center of West Virginia. But, it's watching the side-by-side movement. I mean, everybody has different opinions on side-by-sides and power sports. What they've been able to do with some of the land that has been, to try to avoid the controversy here, like just basically been destroyed by stripping its natural resources. What the state's been able to do to say, you know what, we're not going to dwell on that. We're going to create opportunities with some of these strip mines, buying some of these properties, giving access for people to drive, and trailer in, side by sides to the state and explore it and see, how beautiful the state is pretty powerful. I mean, you can just like up in South Dakota around Deadwood, you can drive a side by side legally anywhere you want to in West Virginia. Like when we were at the state capitol for the Adventure Travel and Power Sports Day, like people drive side by sides down the streets in Charleston. Like you could, it is so crazy. Like to see a side by side, like in the Chick-fil-A drive through line, like it's just the way it is. And I think there's a real opportunity, but the biggest thing and the most important thing that I feel like I can contribute to that is, hey guys, we're very fortunate here, but we also have to be very careful that we're doing it the right way and that we're promoting people to use the trails, to not litter, throw out their beer cans, throw out their Mountain Dew bottles. We gotta do our part to educate people, educate kids so that they know that they need to stay on trail and not tear up the forest. Because if we don't do that, we're going to screw it up and ruin it for everybody. So,
and that's been the complaint about side by sides in other places, particularly in areas where, unlike what you're talking about in West Virginia, where some of those were strip mine locations that essentially the land was, I don't know, already shit upon. Let's look that way, right?
Yeah.
I know. Like where I am here in Baja, the side by sides are not very popular. The Mexicans hate them. there's certain communities they're about them, but they go out and they rip up. This is challenge even down here in a place that's world famous for racing, right? We're about to have the NORA 1000, and there's the side-by-side classes and pro truck classes and vintage stuff, and all these different things. So there's a push and pull, and even Mexico's catching up to we have to somehow figure out how to do this responsibly, right? I mean, that's the challenge.
Yeah, that's so we go to this, every year for the last 3 or 4 years. I've been going to the state capitol while they're in session. All the lawmakers are there. There are several lobbyists there. To be a part of, we're all part of the same community, right? We're all using, it's all motorized tourism. Whether you're driving a Corvette on the windy roads of West Virginia, you're driving a side-by-side on the trail in the mountains, or you're overlanding, and you're kind of doing both, right? Yep. So I totally support everybody's efforts to embrace motorized tourism, but I'm going to be, the tree hugger, for lack of better term, standing in the distance saying we need to do this the right way, and Tread Lightly, new executive director for Tread Lightly, is actually a West Virginia resident. So I think there's a lot of really positive things you're going to be seeing happening here, on the East Coast, to bring awareness to, how do we do this responsibly? How do we have comfortable conversations? How do we avoid fighting with, conservation agencies? How do we work together with Fish and Wildlife? How do we work together with, everything that basically supports outdoor recreation?
Jason, I'd like to ask you about Adventure X Fest. I have two questions right off the bat. Are me and Mike invited? And what's it all about?
100%. You're always invited to any of the guided trips, anything you guys want to do. Always. I mean, I love you guys. You're awesome. We've had some good times together. Adventure X Fest is kind of the community piece of that whole intro that you shared. So, I had this kind of get together in college around mid-April every year. And we would all go camping and out in the woods, and we'd drive our trucks out and we'd camp and we'd celebrate and have a good time. And after I left college, I just kind of missed it so much. I missed that special time in mid-April where we all got together and celebrated, right? So I used to have everybody come to my house in West Virginia. At the time, I lived in West Virginia. After we graduated college, and we called it Rally in the Valley. And it wasn't around overlanding or anything. It was about music. It was about good times, being together with your friends, and celebrating, right? So after I left West Virginia, I moved out west, ended up in Georgia, and then moved back to Virginia, started Mountain State Overland, and I said, God, I really missed Rally in the Valley. Rally in the Valley was so much fun. It was just a big party, bringing friends together, all about community, right? Never got really big. It was always the best when it was small. And so we started kind of thinking about diversification of business is a good, we've talked diversification on some of our chats there at the round table at Overland Expo, right? So we're always thinking about things that we can do to kind of keep the brand, keep the business. It's a side business at the end of the day, Mountain State Overland is, but how do we keep it supporting itself? And how do we do it responsibly? So we said, you know what, I used to do this Rally in the Valley. Let's do an event. But, we started conceptualizing what that event would be because there was already so many overland events, and now there's so many more. Like, what can we do to really keep it true to that kind of communal atmosphere? So we came up with the concept of an adventure base camp festival solely focused on music, adventure, and good vibes. And that was it. We tried to play around with some vendors initially, but the vendors just weren't selling stuff because the people just wanted to come there and camp. Mm-hmm. So after a couple of years of doing the event, we just cut the vendors out and said, you know what, let's just focus on music. And then what ended up happening was we'd have a lineup of 3 really good bands. But when they were playing at the amphitheater, everybody was just sitting at their trucks, like hanging out by a campfire or a controlled, gas fireplace or something, right? So we said, okay, let's take it out of the city, which Covington was a great location for it because there were so many gravel roads. Let's take it out of the city. Let's move it into the Highlands of West Virginia. I got a specialist place there. So we moved it up there. We cut the vendors out. We limited it to one guy that plays acoustic music throughout the event. It's solely focused on local foods, local beverages, but it's a base camp adventure festival at the end of the day. And it always has been that you come, you camp, we give you the tools that you need to go out and explore for the day. You celebrate on Friday night, you celebrate when you return on Saturday evening, and then you go home on Sunday. And we set these standards that we wanted to maintain so that it would always be what it was. And we're pushing ourselves into a box every year because it's not a huge money making opportunity. What it is a huge community building opportunity. And so people are coming in this beautiful, magical place on top of a mountain in West Virginia, and they're camping together and they're exploring together and they're having good food, sitting by a big community fire and having good drinks, and then just celebrating adventure, in the Mountain State, wherever they're coming from. Right. And it's been fun to see new people come, but it's almost becoming a reunion of people that have been on our guided trips. So people go on these guided trips, they meet people, complete strangers, become best friends in 3 days. We release Adventure X Fest. Are you going? Are you going? Are you going? They meet up, they show up, and they create these little micro communities in the field in this beautiful venue, and we all come together and celebrate. We have a big raffle at the end, and that's all it is. Yeah. And we limit it to 75 trucks. It will never be more than that. It's just 75 trucks. That's it. And so, yeah. I mean, we could talk about events and what we believe, in that. I think you guys have probably talked about that before, right? But, there's educational events, there's vendor shows, there's rigs and coffees, there's meetups, there's rides, there's all of that. But we wanted to get people in a very, magical space to celebrate all of it and talk and just have a good time, because that's honestly the best part of overlanding. The more that I do it, or adventure travel, is honestly getting to camp and sitting by the fire, right? Like, I mean,
and many, as you know, many of the bigger events, that's how they started, right? I mean, in the beginning, that's what it was all about. It's always been about that. So let me ask you a question. So you're kind of leading around something that I've been wondering what your opinion is. What do you, if you were to do a State of the Union on overlanding in general, where do you think we are now, like today, as opposed to 2, 5, 10 years ago? And what do you think's gonna where is it going? And some of this question is directed at, I think you and I have sat around at Overland Expo and talked about the changes that we've seen over the years, certainly with a big event, a premier event like that. But what does it look like, I guess, from your perspective in West Virginia? What's the economy look like? What's that's why I originally asked you, where you were picking up, and it's good to hear that you're picking up your base of people from social media and whatnot. But what do you think is what is the state of overlanding? I guess I'll leave it open ended for you.
I think it's been kind of interesting to where we started, how I got. I mean, we car camped as high school kids. That's just what we did. There was nowhere else to. We camped. We'd drive out in the woods. We'd park our trucks and we'd fish, or we'd sit around a fire.
Bring some beer.
That's just what we did. Drink. Find somebody to buy us beer, maybe, because I couldn't buy it, right? So find some guy to buy us some beers, get out in the woods, and just have fun in a responsible way. We weren't driving around; we were just sitting there.
Right.
Well, it was safe, right? Yeah. That's like the safest if I could envision my kid ever making a decision to do that. I hope he just parks somewhere and doesn't move, right? So, but so when we learned about Expedition Overland, we were like, oh my gosh, like we've been doing this forever. I think that's when people discover it, they're like, yeah. But I think what we're seeing now is people discovering it that's never done it before. I mean, you get 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds that this is the first time they've ever overlanded before. This is the first time they've legitimately car camped. So, overland being like you're camping, you're packing up, you're moving to the next location, you're camping, you're packing up, and enjoying everything in between, right? There are lots of people that just drive their truck out to state park and, camp and set up for a weekend. But some of those people are new. So I think you had a whole lot of people that were kind of seasoned veterans in the overland space in the beginning. And then there was this boom of social media that introduced this lifestyle to people where you could pretend to be homeless for 3 days, and people were like, wow. And then COVID happened. Oh. And then everybody was like, I can't go anywhere and do anything. So I'm just going to sneak out in the woods and go camping. And then people started, looking at their lives, looking at their careers. Like, what do I do? Where are we going to go? We have to see the world. The world's, time here short. Like, so people kind of jumped all over that. And I think that COVID, year to year, the more further we get away from that time, like people are kind of settling back into the routines again, and then you're going to have a lot of your, kind of seasoned people that have been doing it forever, sticking with it because they genuinely just love it. And then after things settle down, people are going to get bored again. And then they're going to be like, how can I get out? Well, I don't think we need another COVID to happen, but I don't think that's necessarily going to be the catalyst. I think people are going to get settled into their lives again and look back and reflect on that and then come back. Right. So, and we're in such a unique time too, because social media is such a big part of our lives, that people are just going to be continually influenced. I'd like to think that these types of opportunities where you can get people out there are probably going to be few and far between, like for a guided experience, because it's just not, there's just not a lot of clientele for it. There's you couldn't legitimately, I don't feel like you could legitimately run a full-time guided trip service like you can floating people down a whitewater run on the New River. Like you can't do that because there's just not enough people that know about it. It's such a, as big as it is in our heads, because we see it every day in our feeds, our social feeds, it's such a small piece of everything. We go down the political spectrum, which we won't do, but a lot of products that are maybe available, may get more expensive. So people are going to be thinking more about, what they're spending their money on. And then there's some stuff that won't be impacted by any of that. So I don't know. I mean, that's about as far as I think I can go with it. But, I think we're going to be okay because, we don't ever bite off more than we can chew. And
you're in a niche. You're doing a niche market that, that is, like you said, is kind of curated and developed through people that are interested in you, right? And you and your people, and following you and watching your videos. So that's a real thing. We've talked about that as a creator. People are excited about doing things that they've seen on, whether it's on YouTube or on TV or whatever. And that's an interesting thing. I think for me, the overlanding thing is, I agree with you on the cycle that it's gone through, and we see, the economy. Not to, you don't want to talk about it, but the current economic situation is obviously probably devastating. I'm really curious to see what the Overland Expo season looks like this year. The first one that happened, I talked to Jerry from Tembo Tusk and a couple other people that had attended the new one in California, and they said it was one of the best shows they've done in years from a standpoint of selling things. Now, you got to understand that this is, Orange County, California. There's a lot of money. There's a lot of, it was a shopping event, right? Like Overland Expo has drifted so far away from the old days of sitting around a campfire with a bottle of bourbon. This was a shopping event. So the other events like East and Mountain West that you're going to attend are not as much of a shopping event, I would say. But so it's interesting to see how, tariffs, you bring up tariffs. Well, I mean, that's going to impact a lot. I hate to say it out loud, but Phil knows I always say things out loud. I mean, it's going to significantly impact a lot of the junk shit that is available at expos, like
right.
Endless amounts of Chinesium, from refrigerators to just crap. I talked to Dometic the other day and found out that they're doing a big booth. They've merged all their companies together, like GoPower, and, FrontRunner, and all that. They're not even selling product anymore. So they're going to be doing the expos this year. No refrigerators or anything. I remember in past years where you'd see people carrying refrigerators around the show they had just bought. That's gone. They're not even doing product. So you could see change happening in our space, certainly from a financial perspective.
And I think people are going to be even more hungry for community events, like community opportunities to get together. People need a space to go and find the products and do the research and touch them and compare them. And people need the education. Overland Expo is fantastic with that. The educational opportunities, nobody can compete with that, in my opinion. I feel like they have such a good focus on that. Azure does such an amazing job, putting those opportunities together. The women's space, having done this women's only weekend was very enlightening for me, and understanding. It was actually pretty comforting because we didn't talk about like gear the whole time. We talked about just like normal stuff. And it made me think like, when we got, spouses on these trips, like we have to keep in mind what we talk about all the time, because it could bore somebody to death if we're talking about gear ratio, tire size.
About to say, why do we need to talk about gear ratio every 5 minutes?
and how heavy your rig is, right? So, but talking about what books they read and talking about, what the best trip they've ever been on and like things like that. So, yeah, I mean, everything has its space, but I think it's creating more and more opportunity to think about community to all three of us. Looking back 10, 12 years ago was Expedition Portal.
Yeah.
That was our community. That was our forum, and now, although that's still fairly active, like there's just not as much chatter out there.
No.
And I think because people are looking for, I don't think it's because people are losing interest. I think some of the people that are really active are aging out a little bit, and we've got, new and young coming up, and they don't even know what a forum is, right. So, that was our community. We would put together, I mean, even Overland Bound did that. They had those rally
Overland Bound is
checkpoints.
another one. Yeah. Yep.
That was a really good community
And
opportunity.
this past summer, I know Phil and I attended the X Overland Ranch event, and you're right. People are looking for those kind of events because that was all about community, right? That was just hanging out, chilling with a bunch of people that we know or new people that we were meeting, and it wasn't so focused on the commercial side of it. I agree with you, Jason, by the way. I mean, Overland Expo, the one thing that they cannot afford to lose is the education piece of that, because if they ever moved away from that to me, that would be the biggest mistake because they have a market on that. That is so critical, particularly as you say, some of us, I'm putting myself in the category, are going to age out, and you want the new people to be just as educated, right? If you lose the education part of it, that's where the whole thing goes to hell, right?
Yeah. I think there needs to be. I think there's an opportunity for the kid thing, whether you have kids or not. It's probably, if you don't, it's not important for you, but like educating, the youth, giving them something fun to do that they look forward to, with Overland Expo, rooftop tent rally, Blue Ridge Overland Gear puts that on.
One of my favorite events.
Yeah, I mean, Catcher, my son, just loves that because he gets to see these kids, and do stuff. And, I take him on the guided trips when I can pull him out of school, and trying to give him those opportunities, like, so that he understands it. He's my little kid ambassador. Like when I take him on my trips, like we just did last weekend, we had 2 other kids. He got out of the truck and he went over and was like, "Hey guys, let's go do something," and like they went out in the woods and built a fort, so like, yeah, I think, embracing the kids in overlanding is probably would be a good opportunity for Overland Expo. I know
they just started doing the Women the Wander this last season, and that was huge. I mean, Azure put that together. That was an amazing thing. And Phil and I have talked about this on the podcast. I mean, I see it as a full-time traveler. 70% of the full-time travelers out are women. So women comprise a huge part of overlanding.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, Rhea is like, I didn't even know who Rhea was before I was parked right beside her at Overland Expo East last year. And then, when I did some internet, I didn't have to sleuth anywhere. You just type her name in, she's everywhere. And what she's accomplished in her time living out of her Subaru Outback and now her Wolf, and now where she's going and what she's done and how authentic she is too. That really speaks volume. But you're seeing, more women doing this and feeling empowered to just get out there and not be intimidated about it. I mean, we talked about a lot of stuff around the fire, like what's your scariest moment? How do you plan? And, she just rolls with the punches. She's like, this is what I'm going to do today. I'm going to go here. And, but it was hard for some of those ladies on the first day, a little bit, not everybody, but just to get things set up, maybe in a capacity where their husband has been with them on a trip, and just helps them out with things. And now he's not there. It can be a little intimidating, even if you're with a bunch of women. It's still like, do I ask all these people for help? What do I do? And, them to leave feeling totally empowered is a very rewarding feeling after 3 days in the woods.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're going to change direction a little bit. I have a question, and this is going to go to Jason, but I'm going to open it up to you, Mike. Doug Burgum, the newly appointed U.S. Secretary of the Interior, who has signed orders to explore opening public lands up to fossil fuel production. Jason,
boy.
As a traveler, a guide, running a guide business, what's your opinion on opening up public lands to gas and mineral production?
Hey, I'm glad you sent it to Jason before me. Usually Phil whacks me with this stuff. Like,
Well, I mean, he uses these lands. So, do you think it affects the general public? Would it affect your business? Does it limit opportunities for the regular person to enjoy this great land? Does
you
it
realize
benefit
it's
our
a loaded
economy?
question a little bit because
Yeah.
Well, no, the reason I'm saying that
They're
is
all
'cause-
loaded.
well, public land. There's. I don't think most people out there don't understand that there's just unbelievable amounts of public land, and public land comes into various different categories, right? So, and some of what you're talking about, I'll give you an example. This is kind of Alaska, as an example, has just infinite amounts of public land, right? So you have to kind of look at it a couple ways. I mean, yes, if you were taking public land that was, 30 miles outside of Washington, D.C., that's not the same as the middle of Alaska somewhere, or there's different categories. I mean, what I don't like about when people present the whole thing about what do you think of this is it immediately goes to politics, and it's like, well, they're going to drill oil in the center of the Grand Canyon. No, that's not what we're talking about. So, okay, I'll shut up.
No, you keep going because then I don't have to talk.
I mean, in general, what was the question, Phil?
Basically, we've opened up through Trump's executive order and through Doug Burgum, we're opening up the national parks and other public lands for mineral extraction and oil. Just what is your general opinion? Is it good? Is it bad? That's it. So you guys are really stumbling around, so I'll answer it.
Mixed bag.
I think it's good. I think it's good. They're, like you said, they're not going to just like drill in the middle of the Grand Canyon. They're not about to go and start drilling where Old Faithful is or something. There's already some levels of this that have been done over decades, and they're usually in the back country of these places. You'll never see it unless you take a hike, which nobody ever does. And
the vast majority of natural resources, like on BLM land, example, is cattle grazing, and also, it's been going on for years.
Yeah, if you've taken a trip to Moab, you have and done some trails. You've seen some mineral extraction. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's already happening. It'll just increase a little bit more. I don't think it'll affect anything. If anything, it'll make your gas cheaper and maybe you'll have a better job and the economy will be better. So you'll buy a new vehicle, you'll go on a trip, and Jason will have more people going on guided tours. That's my opinion.
Well, I think there's a couple different ways to answer this. I feel like our national parks have always been a protected space that, for whatever reason, we need to preserve them.
Parks. I would agree with the
parks.
Yeah.
Public lands, BLM, national forests. I feel like that's a different discussion slightly. Nobody can argue there would be somebody's going to reap the benefit from it somewhere, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to answer this as like neutral as I can here.
Yeah, ExxonMobil is going to benefit from that. Let's just cut to the chase.
Some big oil guy is going to benefit. Some coal, company. I feel like we have made such remarkable efforts in renewable opportunities for renewable energy that I feel like we're going back in time, which it's evident. And anytime we go back in time, it just doesn't feel right. I don't feel like that's the best approach in every in every conversation or in every situation. I do worry that accessibility could be impacted by these efforts, whether that be, heavy machinery traveling on the roads that we travel on, roads being, temporarily or indefinitely shut down. Because, I see it in West Virginia, right? So when you look at the open portal for all of the roads in West Virginia, digital website, everybody can go to it. They can plug in the type of roads that they want to find, and you can find gravel roads, you can find earth roads, earthen roads, you can find tar chip, you can find pavement, you can find painted lines. What I see where West Virginia has gone through this process, coal mines have come in with eminent domain and said, like, okay, these roads no longer exist. We're just going to cut the mountain off, going to extract the coal, and then the roads won't be there anymore. Or if the roads were there and we're required to rebuild the roads, we're just going to pave them. And then it just is like, well, where are we going to go do what we do again? That's one piece of it. But, so that's one downside of that piece. I think when executive order or legislation comes out like that, there's just a lot of question. And people will jump on either side of the fence with that, right? And they'll just assume, or they'll assume the worst, or they'll assume the best case scenario. Gas is going to get cheaper, or they're gonna destroy my public spaces. Because there is no clear understanding of what that means right now, people are very separated in their opinions of what's going to happen. I would love to think optimistically that everything is going to be okay. I don't know what's going to happen, but I do really enjoy the public spaces that we have to explore, the parks. I can't imagine floating down the New River Gorge and seeing, a major industrial operation underway, in the gorge. I can't imagine driving, through Yosemite and seeing oil rigs on the side of the road. Right. I can't imagine being in Yellowstone and seeing, wolves and bison, and then again, another oil rig set up.
Or a strip mine for lithium or something else of the sort.
I think I had a really interesting experience when we were in Utah this year on BLM, thinking about just the vastness amount of land that is nothing. And honestly, nobody is using it. Like for 2 days we saw 2 cars, in this section of Utah that we were in on BLM, and had an amazing experience. But it's also at the same point in time, like, we started having these conversations around the fire, like, why did we take this land away from the natives? Like, why didn't we just let them have, like, whatever were we going to do with this? Like, not saying that we need to extract resources from it, but like, why do we even need it?
That's part of the argument, is that it's not benefiting anybody.
Yeah. And so I, would find myself really, not supporting opening it up, because I really enjoy what we have now. And one thing that I discuss in West Virginia when we're at the state capitol is like, hey, I'm not trying to open up new roads. I mean, there's always initiatives to open up new roads for a while, and I've had some really good talks with my friend Jerry Bain about this. He runs the West Virginia Country Roads Coalition, and they've been a very, very big advocate in opening roads that are legally closed or gated. But I just told Jerry, I said, as long as we can have access to what we have right now, I am perfectly fine.
Yeah.
As a business or just as a general, citizen of, the United States of America, I really love having what we have now, and knowing that we may not have that access is disheartening slightly.
So, guys, a declassified Cold War era file from the CIA has gone viral over its coverage of a supposed clash between Soviet soldiers and a UFO. This is something that has come out because the country itself has given out the files, and there are photos, there are soldiers, there are witnesses. Do you guys know anything about this? Sounds like no.
No,
Well, I didn't hear that one. I've heard various talk about.
I was trying to give you something mild, Jason.
you definitely pivoted on that one.
We're like, what?
I'm like, huh? Let me turn upside down and stand on my head real quick.
Yeah. No.
All right, Mike, we back to our regular schedule. The Supreme Court heard arguments on Tuesday from religious parents who say young parents can't be expected to separate a teacher's moral messages from their family beliefs. What do you think, Mike? We'll get an answer to this.
A parent can't separate their.
So right now, before the Supreme Court, there's a case. And they are fighting for the right to excuse their children from certain classes that deal with moral messages and family beliefs and exposure to LGBTQ-themed storybooks.
You know me, I have a long history of this. I'm always going to support on the side of the parents in this one. Our education system is based on should be based on our beliefs, and if you don't, if something against what you believe in, then you're going to pull your kid out of that. To me, that's an easy.
Yeah, I think people can raise their kids however they want.
Yeah.
If they don't like what they're required to do through public school or a private school, then just homeschool them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what I think.
Yeah, I agree.
So like if I feel like even more and more people are embracing homeschooling as an alternative to education, because they have the support networks, in different communities where they can kind of get together and the kids can still play and still interact. And I mean, the biggest part of schools is just the social aspect of it.
That happened during COVID to some extent. So many more people went to homeschooling, which, by the way, is going back to how it was a long time ago, right? Well, and by the way, how it is in many other countries. You get off the beaten track enough, largely Africa and different developing nations, where there's a lot of, I mean, maybe you wouldn't call it homeschooling, but it's very more similar to that, village schooling or whatever. I think I see that as a positive thing. I don't see that. This is not to bring politics into it, Phil, but I mean, it's one of the reasons why they want to get rid of the Department of Education, because they felt like it became too much of a big brother oversight from the top, and it went too far away from what the people at the local level want. I mean, it's that simple.
I can't understand this newfound love by many for the Department of Education. I've been around for a long time now, and ever since the beginning of the Department of Education, there has always been complaints about the decline of so many things: test scores, attendance, truancy. The list goes on.
Which,
And
by the
now,
way, was the Department of Education has been both parties, Republicans and Democrats, all the administrations at one time or another over the course of the beginning have tried to get rid of it. It's not a new thing.
all of a sudden, this is like the greatest organization in the world, and we need to support it. But if you actually look at numbers, the deterioration of our educational system started with that organization. When they first started, we were number 4 in the world in education, and now we are 40. That's crazy.
Yep.
How does an organization of any sort defend that we were number 4 and now we're 40 and we should still be around?
So let me ask you a question then, Phil. So are people going to get smarter because they can choose what they want their kids to be taught?
No. But
No. No. In many cases, no. I would say no.
No.
But I would feel a lot better having a dumb kid and have less taxes, or my taxes not being going to an organization that's not helping my dumb kid.
Well, I mean, in fairness, getting rid of
these kids are
Department
dumb.
of Education is on a federal level. I'm not supporting getting rid of I think it should be state based or more
Yes.
local based, where there's got to be you still paying taxes into something, but it's got to be done by a better minds. Maybe
Yeah,
too much
because
you got to take the politics out of the education part.
Because even if we're sticking to a knowledge-based curriculum in the schools, I believe that it still needs to be regional. Because like living here in the Pacific Northwest, I would think that education would be more focused toward agriculture and working in forestry, things that are in our region. And then that same application will work across the country. There'd be certain vocations that you'd focus on or not focus on. I don't think an overlapping educational system works for a whole 50 states.
Yeah, so we have very diverse demographics in West Virginia. Schools in very, kind of underdeveloped communities in our area. I think we're getting off the topic of the question too a little bit, but I can still address that, is that I think, finding dollars to support these communities that just don't have a lot already, cutting those funding for those areas and those locales are really going to cause some problems. I also think that, I've never, I don't think we should require people to preach religion in schools. I've never felt like that was, because there's so many people have so many beliefs and things.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't ever remember being required to learn about all of the different sexual preferences. Of course, they never forced that on us when we were in high school. But the reality is that society is changing, and I don't think we can stop society from changing. It's just like a steamroller. Like the road's going to get laid out no matter how you try, how many blocks and barriers you're putting away. Mm-hmm. I feel like limiting that general awareness of what is happening in our world will keep certain areas, stuck in
in the dark, quite literally.
Yeah. But I don't know that, I don't know that we need to, I don't even know what they're teaching. Like, I'm comparing it to what it was when I was in high school. I mean, I know the math has changed. I'm like, how are you getting to that catcher? Like, how are you like the math, the concepts of that? I mean, totally, like, straight to the point here is that, my concern is for the people that have those jobs right now and live where they do. What are they going to do now? And I think you could argue, oh, they'll just figure something out. But the reality is, like, they built their families here. They've lived here generation after generation. They have a way to support for the better good of something, and now, people are scared that they're not going to have that job. They may have to relocate their families elsewhere, and it's so, you live in a big city, and then but then when you don't live in a big city and you live in kind of a larger town, and then you go and to these places, like just using West Virginia as an example, and you see how there's really no industry. There's, if they have a job, they're probably still working for a coal mine that only has so much more time in that area. Like, you've seen the collapse. You drive through towns that are completely abandoned because those people just can't be there anymore. If they still are there, they're probably being, supported by, the federal government. But it's such a big topic. I don't know if we can cover this in like a single podcast.
Jason, you mentioned staying on topic. Don't worry about that. We never stay on topic.
No, I know that's okay.
No such thing.
It's called random waypoints.
That's right.
Random waypoints.
Which, by the way, Phil, think about this for a second. Like, what you're asking the Department of Education. So in my mind, I'm not trying to take. I agree with what Jason said. The problem is you can't take an entire department and the money away from, because not everybody has the same funnel going to them, right? So you continually using West Virginia as an example, like you said, it's very diverse. If you take, I'm not suggesting it would be a good idea. You can't just take away the funding for these people from the federal government or whatever, because you're screwed then. Like, what do they do? Like, you're just going to develop a bunch of meth villages or something? You know what I mean? Like,
they already got that problem.
Well, yeah, I suppose.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't. That's just going to make it worse, not better.
Yeah.
That isn't. To me, the problem with when you're addressing, say, the Department of Education, the problem is the bureaucracy and the politics that are involved from the way top that are coming down, and they're trying to infiltrate the system. And that's not what I think it was originally designed to do. What it was designed to do was try to create somewhat of an equal playing surface for everybody, that we would leave nobody behind. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's, maybe we've lost sight of that. It needs to get to that, whether that's done at a state level or at some other level. I wouldn't, whatever amount of funding is going into this can't be just taken away. I mean, that's going to be a terror show.
Well, the funding shouldn't be taken away. It should be redirected. But
you got to have a place to redirect it to.
The state.
Well, easier said than done in some cases. And by the way, not all states are created equal either, as you know.
I look at the Board of Education in many of these institutions similarly to some of the biggest charities. So much money, so much of the money, the majority of the money goes to bureaucracy, goes to salaries and things like that. And it never gets to us anyway. Yeah. So I think it would be far more effective, and it would have much more impact if more of the money actually came to the state. Now, you're talking to somebody whose daughter has graduated college, and I don't have none of these problems. So it's kind of unfair for me to have an opinion. And like Jason was saying, you can't change what's going on moving forward. So what?
No, it's like trying to stop water flowing. I
Yeah.
mean, you can build all the dams you want, but the
Gotta
water's
find a
gonna
way
go
around.
It's gonna.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right. Last topic. Supreme Court is examining district judges' ability to issue nationwide injunctions. So basically, almost everything that's going on in politics right now, that's going on in the United States, is because some district judge has decided to make an order causing someone to do something or stop them from doing something, whether it's immigration, whether it's some school bill. What are your feelings about the powers of a district judge's ability to stop and start laws and things like that?
See, the problem, Phil, is that we've gone. This is why I'm sitting here very comfortably down here in Mexico, avoiding what I call the noise up in America. But the problem is that going on is we've gone to a system where it seems like one person is making decisions, whether that's the president making. I'm blanketly kind of against one person making. Like, I don't like executive orders. I don't like one judge do. You know what I mean? I feel like we've lost the legislature, the Congress or whatever has disappeared. Like, and suddenly lawmakers aren't making any laws. It's now one human, whether that's Trump at the top or the judge in a district judge or even the Supreme Court. All of a sudden, it's like,
Yeah, we need checks and balances.
there's no checks and balances. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. It's like agendas.
That was the foundation of our country, is that we always have checks and balances. And whether it may be, an outspoken judge like you're saying, or whatever, it's this whole the whole targeting Harvard.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
Like,
Yeah.
these are the smartest people in our country, and they're all like legal people.
Yeah.
Like, wow. So, but
Wow.
what happens if they win? Is it gonna which they I would think that they probably will, but how is it going to be enforced? Like, and are we creating a I don't want to get all conspiracy on us, but like, we are really challenging that foundation right now, of checks and balances, and keeping us true to what we were intended to be as a country when it was built, when the Constitution was written. So I don't know about I feel like judges typically, Harvard law professors, and like these people, they know what they're talking about. I mean, there's probably some of them that are on one side more than the other, but let's remove that from the equation and let's talk facts and how we're going to maintain that, the order of checks and balances in our country. So,
and that's the problem, because what's happened is we fundamentally, and Phil and I talked about this on earlier podcasts, but fundamentally, whether you are we got a lot of listeners on both sides, whether you're fundamentally supporting the current administration or not, he has fundamentally changed America, the structure of the government. I grew up for 25 years always saying, it doesn't really matter who gets elected president because they don't really have the power. Well, guess what? That's not true anymore. And that's not just for Trump. That's for whoever comes next, regardless of what side they're on, where they could be on the other side. I think for the next 50 plus years, we fundamentally have changed the way that America operates. And to me, that's a slippery slope. That's very scary because we've definitely gone to a strong man, and not just at the presidency level, a way of dealing with controversy in politics, and that's going to be hard to change back.
Well, I'm smack dab in the middle with my opinion on this. I absolutely believe in checks and balances. Without them, it's just the nature of a human being to, take an inch of rope and hang itself. But on the other side, there are different levels of judges, and I don't feel like a district judge should be able to have any input on national affairs. It's just like if you were to go to court and then the bailiff stepped in and said, no, he's guilty. In my opinion,
but Phil, that's the new way we're handling it. So you've got an active or overactive judge in Texas. They know that the new policy now is to run it up the fence, right? So they're going to say something. They're going to make a ruling, and then they know it's going to go to the circuit. They're going to know it's going to go to the Supreme Court. That's how we've
understand
this whole program into a one-person show.
But a district judge shouldn't have the power to get it. The only way he should have that power is if whatever he's trying to stop or make an injunction about, there's at least one person affected in his district.
That district, that's right.
But it'll be like something going on in D.C., and it'll be a guy like in Tupelo, Mississippi, district judge, and he does traffic.
Right.
A district judge shouldn't have that ability.
Look, you open
a judge.
you open it up, Pandora's box at one level, and you can expect it's going to happen at all levels. That's
If the Supreme Court allows them to keep this, I think things will get worse. I think you'll literally, on the hour, every hour, have a judge putting something out with his newfound godlike abilities.
Yeah.
And I believe that you'll have different constituencies, you'll have different PACs, you'll have different political parties. They'll go directly to these judges and be like, hey, we need you to do this. I think things will just turn out really bad if they're given this power. It should be a certain level of judge and not a district judge.
And like I said, it needs to be a consensus among some kind of legislature, and that's what we've lost, I think. I think they're all sitting around at this point, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they're just all afraid, or they're just both parties have. I mean, we've talked about this. I mean, the Republican Party disappeared. Trump hijacked it, and the Democrat Party spontaneously combusted. They don't exist. There's no leadership. So you got no parties anymore.
So let's end this with one last question. Depending
Where
upon
are we gonna go? Where are we gonna go when shit hits the fan? We're overlanders. We can go anywhere.
Exactly. My big orange truck is immune to it's protected.
I bet you they're gonna sell a lot of long range fuel tanks here.
Yeah.
So, regardless of your political leanings, are you excited at the idea of a possible overturning of the 22nd Amendment, allowing Trump to become have a third term?
No, that's a disaster.
I'm not excited for any president to do that.
No.
Well, I'm not talking about. Okay.
How about that? How about as honest and bipartisan as I can answer that question is that I'm not.
No, I'm the other way around. I've talked about this on the podcast, Phil. I mean, I'm using Mexico where I'm sitting right now as an example. They have, in my opinion, their system is more advanced than the United States. They have term limits on every single position. The president here can only run for one term, 6 years, but they can run for one term. That's it. They can't be reelected. And this is true of the senators and the legislature as well. So, like, if anything, no, I don't want to turn over. I think we should put in some limits, as we got lifers in the. That's probably why the Congress isn't working. We got lifers in there that are just asleep at the job, quite literally.
Bro, we have
Yeah,
people, we have people who are incapacitated in the Senate and Congress.
yeah, but they still have to be elected.
Well,
They
but
still made it.
okay. Let's end upon that podcast on a high note. They're elected because people are dumb. I mean, let's be just. I mean, you're right. We can use that argument all you want, but like they have to be elected. But here the problem is our system highly supports incumbents, right? I mean, it's just a default. There's so few people vote, and so few people are in the know, and so few people educate themselves really on the system, that once you're in, the likelihood, if you can stay out of controversy, is that you'll stay indefinitely. So you end up with, people like Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell, and on both sides. This is both parties. I mean, some of these guys are just dying. I mean, they might as well be the Pope, right? They're dying in office because they're just. And
they've researched and polled over and over and over and over again, and they've come to find that the majority of people, usually when they go in that booth, they may know one or two people on that whole complete list.
Yep.
And
especially when you're talking about locality. Yeah.
Yeah, locality. Yeah.
Local officials, stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah.
So, like, even back to like the district judge, that district judge has probably been voted in by a bunch of people who have no idea what his affiliations are, his opinions, or anything. He was a Democrat. I'm Democrat, and I'm going Democrat down the line.
For sure.
So a majority of these people get elected by numbskulls.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I hate to say it that way, but there's truth to that.
Yeah, I think that you could argue, say, well, you just let a president run as many terms as he wants. If he gets elected, he gets elected. But what has typically happened in the history of the world?
They change the law once they're in, and then they become a dictator. That's what happens.
Okay, so there's enough that we've learned in the history that doesn't point to success.
No.
By allowing people to run indefinitely. And that is something that we shouldn't allow people not to learn about in their schools.
Agree.
Good point.
That is a great point, actually. Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Jason, we've abused you enough today.
Yeah. I just see you guys having such a good time on this thing. I was like, I kind of feel like I wanted to be here and laugh. And
I can't believe you've never been on before. So
I know. He says that I'd say every time I see Phil, I'm like, oh, I'd really love to be on their podcast. He said, oh yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that sometime. And I'm just messing with you, buddy. I'm really glad that you guys had me on here. It's been a lot of fun. Being put, in a kind of uncomfortable position to be able to answer some of these hard questions is just entertaining. And, it honestly makes me, think about stuff that I just normally try not to think about, because there's so much weirdness in the news that I really look forward to getting in my truck and getting away from cell phone service. And now there's STARLINK. And that's what I'm on right now, actually, right now.
Yeah, so, me too.
That's just how out here it is where we live, But
can I ask you? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to just ask you about STARLINK. You're using it in your home. Could you just briefly explain why?
because where we live, the infrastructure that we have doesn't support, good internet speeds. When we moved here 4 years ago, and my address is Lewisburg, West Virginia, which is a reasonably sized community, not big, but it's a very healthy, local economy, lots of stores downtown, something that's really dying in America. But we're fortunate enough to have that here, but we don't have fiber. At least I don't on my road. We don't have fiber. When we first moved here, we were on DSL 4 years ago, right? And then we went to, from DSL, we went to Viasat, which is the high latency, way up in the sky internet. It's like your DirecTV internet, right? Mm-hmm. Which is just awful. I never understood why I can watch a 4K TV without interruption, but when I try to send an email, it takes like 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. So I never understood that at all. It's just throttling and controlling it. But we were really excited to be able to have, the services that are available to us because of Starlink. And a lot of people have Starlink in their homes around this area in West Virginia because of that. The only telecommunications provider that we have really locally to the majority of West Virginia is one company. And it's not a good experience. It was never a good experience with that company. And we had such a bad experience with Viasat, we had to go back to it again. And just awful. And then when we saw Starlink on the horizon and we saw the satellites deploying across the sky, I was like, sign me up, get me on that. And, you wouldn't even be able to see me on this podcast on DSL. I wouldn't be able to do my job, as a remote e-commerce manager for, the company that I work for. If I didn't have, I wouldn't be able to upload videos, even though it still takes a little bit of time to do that. I mean, it's not the fastest thing that works. It's so much faster than what we had. So, yeah. I
don't know if you can see this. Probably not. Speed test.
211?
211 right here. By the way, we've got over 300 here where I am. So that's
crazy.
It's ripping fast. Yeah, it's 22 up too. So that's not too bad either. But
are you on a mini or are you on the full size?
I have the Gen 3.
Okay. Yep.
So for the listeners, I want them to be aware it's 3 of us and 2 of us are on Starlink, and we haven't had one rough moment with the transmission at all. Matter of fact, Jason looks like he's at CNN.
Right next door. I mean, we're probably 4,000 miles apart between me and you.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty amazing, and we're gonna put a mini on the truck on our Tacoma, and head up to Newfoundland for a few weeks, and I'll work remote, take a day off midweek with the family, and we'll go do some exploring, some hiking and stuff like that, and then work, through the week. But yeah, that's our plan. And to be able to do what Mike does and be wherever he needs to be, to do what he needs to do and stay connected, to be able to travel and do this as a family, during the summer and still work and be available 24 hours a day anywhere that I need to be and have this kind of connection is just absolutely fascinating. We're not going to share. Yeah, we're not going to share our opinions about Elon Musk, but Starlink.
Well, he's nuts. But let's be honest, he's cuckoo. But
Starlink is a good product.
Yeah, for Nomad. It's a game changer. We're using that. I'm doing the Southern Cross Expedition with your buddy Peter Vollers coming up in Arizona, New Mexico, and we're running a Starlink Mini for that trip. So we'll be able to stay in touch with all you guys.
I would love to do this again and be on a conversation with Peter Vollers.
Yeah, we should. Hey, that's
we're gonna make that happen.
Hey,
that's gonna happen.
Phil, Let's
That's
do an
gonna happen.
OG Overland podcast. And Jason and you and me and Peter and maybe, I don't know, maybe we'll get Jerry on too or something.
I want you guys to
Jerry
shut
too.
up.
Holy
Please
cow.
shut up, because
Okay.
somebody will steal the idea.
Yeah,
You just cut this part out.
It's gonna happen. I might. I really
no,
might.
don't cut it out. I want to see somebody copy us. We'll get to
But
them
they
first.
do it all the time. No.
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah.
So we are so glad to have had you on the show, Jason, and we look forward to the next time. Is there any? How do people get in touch with you? How do they find out about you? How do they follow you?
Yeah, no, thanks. This has been, first of all, I mean, it's been an awesome experience being on here with you guys. I kind of get a little sore tummy here from laughing and giggling. So it's always nice to catch up, and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys at the events this year. But to learn more about Mountain State Overland, you can visit us at mountainstateoverland.com. We're pretty much on all of the social platforms, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, as MS Overland for Mountain State, MS Overland. And you can find everything there.
All right. And one last plug for your event. When is that? And what is it called?
Yeah, Adventure X Fest is September 12th through the 14th at Spruce Knob on a piece of property, 400 acres, called Experience Learning. It's one of the highest private properties in West Virginia, and we got 400 acres there all to ourselves for 3 days. We're going to be doing a Tread Lightly project the day before. We do have some open spots available for that. And if you're really looking for an opportunity, from anywhere in the U.S., if you're going to be in the area, that's a fantastic event to come and connect with people and just have a really good time. And we're putting you right in the middle of all of the adventure opportunities in West Virginia up there at Adventure X Fest.
Jason, if the crowds are indicative, there should be a lot of your fans watching or listening to this. Is there any last words you'd like to say?
I mean, you guys, your support, over the last 12 years has kept us going. Positive comments, negative comments, it doesn't matter. We love you, or we'll block you. So that's just the way it goes. I tell people honestly that the best feedback that we can get is negative feedback, provided there is some insights in it. Just we don't see a lot of hate speech anymore, stuff like that. But if there's many times where I may have been offended by things that people have said, and I've actually met them in person and been like, "Oh, you're the one that." But what came across in just a couple words in a sentence or whatever in a YouTube comment or in a text message when you send it to somebody can be just interpreted so many different ways. So we accept anything that anybody has to say, because I think it'll just make us better people at the end, and we can all learn from it. So thank you, everybody, for your support of Mountain State Overland, and we're going to keep on trucking.
All right. Any last words, Mike?
No, thanks, Jason, for coming on. Good to see you, and we'll see you soon in person.
All right, buddies. See you guys too.
So, Jason, thank you for coming to the show. And guys, you know what I'm going to say. Stay safe, tread lightly, and hopefully we'll see you here on a trail soon.
You have been listening to Waypoint Overland's Random Waypoints. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more.